terms of circus theater and more contemporary forms of circus. We came from zero. And now there's a vibrant field. There's many artists living in Rotterdam, actually. Rotterdam became a bit the circus capital, the circus city of the Netherlands. What I really love to do is to create a very diverse program, because I really believe in the great diversity of circus. Circus has evolved in so many different directions, and that they're all allowed to exist, and they all have a place, and they can coexist actually very easily and even reinforce each other.
Welcome to the StageLync podcast, your access and connection to the live performing arts. In this podcast, you'll hear from some of the industry's most inspiring people from around the globe who create magic on stage and backstage. Our guests share their knowledge, passion, and the real stories of how a show comes together. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the StageLync podcast, and my name is Anna Robb. Today we're talking with Menno van Dyke. Menno is an award-winning juggler and artistic director of Circusstad Festival Rotterdam, the leading festival for contemporary circus in the Netherlands. Born in Amsterdam and trained at the Circus School in Paris, Menno has over 20 years' experience performing in some of the finest circus and variety productions worldwide. With the original performance Juggling Tango, created together with his wife and dance partner Emilie Weisse, he's won multiple awards at festivals in Paris, Moscow, and Zhuhai, as well as the Dutch National Circus Prize, the Oscar Carré Trophy. Since 2021, he's taken up the artistic direction of Circusstad Festival Rotterdam, where next to curating the festival program, he also initiates and directs performances, including the Circusstad Gala. Circusstad Festival has been presenting state-of-the-art innovative circus theatre since 2010, as well as actively stimulating and developing the Dutch circus scene. Menno, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure to have you on the StageLync podcast. I want to get started before we talk about the festival and all the things you do now. Tell us a little bit about how you became a juggler, how you got started, how this became your career.
Yes. Yeah, it started very early on. In fact, as long as I can remember, circus has been a thing that I've been busy with every day, basically. It's always been on my mind or physically doing circus. I was born in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and I come from a family of artists, but in a very different field. My mother was a ballet dancer and my father a musician. And so I was always in the theater as a child. And they also took me to lots of different performances, including concerts, opera, and dance, but also circus. And I was told that when I was about 2.5 years old, we went for the first time to a circus performance, and they could straight away sense that this was something different with me. It did something to me. And from that day on, I was playing circus with my toys. I was recording every circus that came on TV. We had to go visit every circus that came to town. So I was totally passionate and obsessed by circus from a very, very early age. And then, of course, we found out there was a children's circus in my hometown in Amsterdam called Circus Elleboog. And this was a place where you could actually yourself train circus. So that was my dream. And I was 5 years old, and I had to wait because you had to be 6 to be taken into this circus. So I waited for a full year, then joined the children's circus, and stayed there all through my youth and my school time. And then I was starting to think, okay, I'm actually learning all the things that are here. And the last thing that I tried out was juggling. It was the final discipline. And that really stuck. Like, juggling was really something that I was good at and that I liked and that I could train at home as well. And at that time, the Netherlands did not have any professional circus schools. So the children's circus was all there was, and there was actually no thing after that. So I finished my high school in the Netherlands with the goal of going to a professional circus school abroad. And I chose to go to Paris, to the Fratellini Circus School. And I went there as soon as I graduated from high school. And then after Fratellini, it's when my career as a juggler started. Yeah, so that's the beginning of the story. Let's say in a nutshell.
That's amazing. And like, what does one do to get work or or be employed as a juggler? Was that a difficult thing, or was that easy to? And what do you juggle, by the way? All the things?
Well, in the beginning, I juggled. I tried everything, but my main objects that I started juggling with professionally were balls and juggling clubs. Those were the main, and still today, actually, in our Juggling Tango act, those are the elements that I use. Yeah, how does one start? I mean, my parents, of course, they didn't know much about the circus world. So what I was fortunate with is that they understood, of course, my passion, because coming themselves from professions that you start with a passion, so they really understood it. But they didn't know the circus world, so they were always trying to get more information about it. So whenever we visited a circus, they went backstage and talked to the people, and they said, like, our son, he loves the circus, he wants to be in the circus, but how can one do that? So we did gather over the years a lot of contacts in the circus world, and also a lot of insight in how this was working. So I was basically really preparing myself as well for this career later on, like to understand. I saw how acts got booked from one place to another, and so by the time I graduated from the Fatellini school, I had an idea of how this world was working. So you have these contacts and you send out your videos, and I must say that sometimes there's also an element of luck. Like I had this good contact to a circus in the Netherlands that organizes this Christmas show, and they had said, when you want to start your career, you have to give us a call. So I did, and so I performed there for one winter during the time that I was still in the school in Paris. And while I was there, my teacher from Paris, from the school, he sent me a message, and he said, can you send us a video over from your performance in the Netherlands? Because the Monte Carlo Circus Festival for Youth, because they have a second festival after the big festival, which is the Youth Festival, which was called Première Rampe at the time. Now they have a similar one called New Generation. And they were interested in my act. So I made the video, I sent it there, and then I found myself, like in end of January, beginning of February, in this big top in Monte Carlo that I had only seen on TV, participating in this competition for young circus artists. And in the jury, there were, of course, many directors of circuses, and I had the chance that Madame Arlette Grus, from one of the biggest circuses in France at the time, Arlette Grus, was in the jury. And they had already started their season, but they had an issue with their juggler, and I think after a month or so, they parted ways. So they were looking for a new juggler. And there I was in this festival, and she saw me, and 1 month later I was in the circus, and I had the opportunity to continue the tour with them until December. So I just kind of rolled into the circus business. So I think it's important to at circus festivals. This is actually a lesson I learned, to participate in a festival like that. It's really a place where you can show yourself and be seen by many people from the field. And I've been doing that all through my career regularly. Like every 2-3 years, I've been participating in a big international festival, always to, let's say, relaunch a bit the career.
That's amazing. No, but also obviously your parents were helping you with some of that groundwork in terms of making connections and asking, how does one become part of a circus, and how do you connections, right? Like that's really a big part of the industry.
Yeah, and understanding the industry and understanding how programmers or the people that book the acts or make the programs, how that works. That's something that I sometimes notice in students at circus schools, that they still have they haven't really completely grasped yet how the professional field is working. They're so focused on their training and which is of course great, but it's very important to analyze the field that you're going to be part of, and also to know and to set your own goals as well, because the field is so diverse and there's so many different directions that you can take. So you have to really study it in a way and know it to know where would I want to go, and then also work towards that.
Well, that's not restricted just to the circus industry. Most performing arts, a lot of people train in their craft, but not necessarily the business of the craft, So
exactly.
We do talk about that a lot on our podcast. So tell us a little bit about Circusstad Festival. Am I even pronouncing that right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And tell us about that particular festival.
Yeah, it's pronounced Circusstad Festival, and Circusstad meaning circus city in Dutch. Mm-hmm. It was founded back in 2010 Like I said before, the Netherlands, when I was starting, didn't have any professional circus education. But around 2006, must have been, they started two bachelor education in the circus arts, one in Tilburg and one in Rotterdam. And I've had been following also these initiatives quite closely because I thought it was very interesting. And when the first graduates were about to be coming out of these schools, the Netherlands realized that there wasn't really a field in the Netherlands. Like, of course, there had been circus, but let's say the developments in contemporary circus and new circus hadn't really reached the Netherlands quite yet. I mean, apart from the occasional touring company from France or from Canada that came along, there weren't any companies, there weren't really artists doing it. So they realized, like, all these students that now graduate, there's not really work for them here. So a lot of initiatives were founded at that time, and Circusstad Festival was one of them. For that specific reason, like, we create a festival like this, we can make the audience discover all these new forms of circus. We inspire the local artists that are just coming out of school, and we give a possibility for the graduates and the students to present themselves. So this was the main reason to found the festival. And it was founded by a collaboration between the two biggest theaters in Rotterdam, the Theater Rotterdam and the Luxor Theater, together with the circus school, Code Arts, and the youth circus, Circus Rotterdam. And this makes it also quite unique because it's this collaboration of these very different institutions, but all with the same goal to put circus on the map, basically, and to develop circus in the Netherlands. And now this is 15 years ago. And if we look now at the development that circus has had in the Netherlands this past 15 years, it's really quite amazing, because we came from kind of, like, at least in terms of circus theater and more contemporary forms of circus, we came from zero. And now there's a vibrant field. There's many artists living in Rotterdam, actually. Rotterdam became a bit the circus capital, the circus city of the Netherlands. So the name was actually quite well chosen as well at the start. Because we have great facilities here. There's training possibilities. There's talent programs, co-productions. It's a very vibrant field.
And in terms of these entities that first sort of founded the project, was there a money raised? Did they contribute money? Because obviously not necessarily there's a lot of surplus cash to fund a festival. How did that do you know the history behind how that came together from a monetary perspective?
I'm not 100% sure about the first edition because I wasn't part of it yet. I'm now the artistic director since 3 years. I know that it has been from the beginning a funded festival, and the arts in the Netherlands are generally funded. And this was also actually part of this development, that circus was, of course, not seen as an art form that could receive public funding, as it was more seen as entertainment. And of course, what the new initiatives, including Circusstad Festival, wanted to show is that circus is an art form, and that it also deserves funding. So at the moment, we receive funding from the city of Rotterdam. And from the Dutch government, so the culture funding on a national perspective, and then we also receive funding from lots of private, small and big private funds yearly. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. I think that there's, when I talk about with some certain entities, there's, getting government funding is obviously getting harder and harder, and there's a lot of corporate influence as well. So you've got a bit of a balance, right, in terms of how this happens. So how did you become the artistic director of Circusstad?
Yes. We talked about the beginning. I started out as a solo juggler. And after about 6 years, I met my wife, Emilie Weisse, who is a dancer. So I actually somehow found my way a bit back to dance as well. And first, as an experiment, we just started to put our two skills together and see if we could come up with something that combined this juggler meeting a dancer, basically. And this led to an act called Juggling Tango that we've been performing for now, I think, about 17 years. So it's been we've been all over the world with it, from Japan and China to Moscow and United States. Big circuses, but also theater productions, anything. We also have a longer version that we perform in the street, on street festivals. And after more than 20 years of performing, we were also talking between us a bit like, okay, we're probably not going to do this for another 10 years. We have to start thinking about other things in our career. And of course, me being so fascinated by circus, I always hoped that I could find something that I could still use all this knowledge and all this experience of circus in it and my passion for circus. So first, Emilie actually started to have this project where she wanted to direct a show of herself, where she's not performing, but it's 2 circus artists. And it's a very interesting piece for babies 6 to 18 months of age. So it's a circus theater for very small children with their parents, caregivers. So she started doing that, and we took some time off from our own performances for that. And then around the same time, Circusstad suddenly, the artistic director that had been there from the beginning, decided that she was gonna leave the festival, and they were looking for somebody new. And we had been living in Rotterdam for about 7 years already, so it's my hometown, and it totally fitted all the boxes that I thought. I've been so interested in this field, and I enjoy being a part of it, not just the onstage part, but also the other side of it. So I applied for the job, and they chose me. So since I'm here.
And now a note from our sponsor. The StageLync podcast is proud to be sponsored by Clearcom. Clearcom is the leader in voice communications for theater and the performing arts. Call your cues with the simplicity and elegance of Clearcom Intercom solutions. You can find them at clearcom.com. Go check them out.
Amazing. No, that's awesome. How fortuitous. And tell me, what goes into curating the program for the festival? How does that? Is that a whole year thing? How does that work?
Yeah, it's much more work than one might think. I don't have a full job at Circusstad Festival. It's a 3-day in the week about position, but still, it's a lot of work, because we have the festival has grown over the years, and it plays a great number of locations in the city. Of course, our founding partners, but also over the years, many other partners have joined. So we play in a great variety of different locations. We had until this year always about 20 to 25 different productions that we perform in 5 days, and most of those productions perform several times. And that goes from large scale theater works like XY's Möbius to a small outdoor street show by 2 persons or 1 person. So it has basically everything. It has tents. We have big theaters, small theaters. We have non-conventional spaces. We have site-specific works. We have works where people are being taken on a tour of the city. It's extremely diverse. But it also means that for every location, I need to basically typecast a show, because some shows might only fit in one of the locations that we have. So,
Sure.
And what I really love to do is to create a very diverse program, because I really believe in the great diversity of circus today. And I also think when you have a festival, it is the best occasion to show all these different elements, and it makes it more fun also to have a day at the festival. And if you see 3 or 4 performances and that they're all so very different, it's much more enjoyable than when they're all a little bit in the same vibe or the same style. So I love to surprise people. So I travel around a lot. I see a lot of works live, but I also get, of course, a lot of video, email. I'm in contact with agencies, with companies about new works as well. We have often works that are actually so new that either they premiere at our festival or they have just premiered before. And we also present works that have been touring for 10 years but have never been to the Netherlands. And so it's a lot of work putting all that together, the whole puzzle. Because you want the bouquet of shows to not just that it's good pieces or interesting pieces, but that they also work well as a whole, and that
Together.
everybody has its place in it, and everybody has a chance to come off the best they can, and at the location where the show works the best, which is also important, because there's nothing worse than to be placed in a space that doesn't work for your show.
For sure. And what's the ratio of acts from outside the Netherlands versus local talent?
It changes a bit from edition to edition. We do have always a Dutch circus showcase, which is a 2-day program where we invite international programmers to discover the newest developments of Dutch circus. So we always program quite a wide range of Dutch work, both already touring to work in progress of new works, because we also have our own talent development division. So we have our residency program. So each year we select 3 projects that get a chance to start their new work. So we have we always have quite a bit of Dutch work, but we also have a lot of international work. It's the ratio, I'm not sure, it varies a bit from 50-50 to sometimes 60-40, depending
on the year.
Yeah.
Interesting. And tell me, like, having been in the industry so long, how has circus evolved and where is it going? That's probably a big question. But
it's a very big question.
What's the evolution?
Well, what I've seen is that, of course, the circus, when I grew up in the Netherlands, we had this, I mean, growing up in Amsterdam, it's a big city. So we had these big circuses, all the big, let's say, call it classical, traditional circuses were coming there. And this was circus at the time. And of course, there were these developments in France and in Belgium, and we saw some of it in Canada. And I think what we've seen in the Netherlands, at least, is that contemporary circus and traditional circus have been kind of a bit in a struggle with each other. Like both of them were kind of a bit saying, well, either this is not circus because we are the real circus, or the other one saying, yeah, but this is old circus. We're the new thing, and we're going to replace the old one. So it was a bit of a struggle. And what I really find an interesting development, at least in the Netherlands, but I see it also internationally, is that these struggles are a bit evening out, and we start to accept that circus has evolved in so many different directions, and that they're all they're all allowed to exist, and they all have a place, and they can coexist actually very easily, and even reinforce each other. And also realizing that the differences are sometimes not so black and white as people might think. Like when I look at a lot of the circus artists that work in our festival, some of them, they also perform with acts in a traditional Christmas show, and then they have their own company and they're touring with their more contemporary work, and the artists are going from one thing to the other, and it's all part of, and it's all developing as well. Like even the more traditional shows are developing. And one of the things we did to kind of symbolize that is that we do every second year we have a Circusstad Gala, which is a big gala event in the biggest theater in the city, the new Luxor Theater. And we showcase there in one evening. We have 11 different short performances or acts, and it's actually companies from the festival that present sometimes a piece out of their longer piece or a totally different act. And we have also acts coming in specifically for that evening. So and the styles also is very diverse, from very experimental modern to a bit more almost classical, and this works really well because the format is of a, let's say, a classical act-based show, but the content is very contemporary. So even the people that are a bit more used to traditional circus, they come to this gala and they discover things they would otherwise never see, and the other way around as well. So we try to symbolize this this new way of seeing circus as an art form that can take on many forms instead of being just the one form that maybe for still a big part of the audience jumps to mind as first because it's been like that for such a long time. So this is still a challenge to get the audience to understand that circus can be so many things. This is our biggest challenge at the moment. But we're doing, I think it's a good development. I think it's circus needs to always evolve, and I think it has always evolved, and sometimes people forget that as well.
Well, of course, because I mean, also, I guess with the advent of technology and automated systems and video content, and there's so many ways that people can evolve their performances through those methods as well. Is there anything that you've seen that's really excited you in the last 5 years that you were like, wow, that's new, or a particular act that, because it's not always about new, right? It's about moving people or somebody that creates an act that really resonates, not necessarily through technology, but is there something that, a particular act or group or show that has really excited you in the last few years?
Yeah, well, I think I'm lucky as a festival director. It's really good for me to have a broad taste. because that's what you see in the festival too, because you see all these different styles. And I like to, look for something that touches me, but it can be within many different things. And one tendency that I have seen in the last few years, and also since I'm doing this job, that is really touching me, is these performances that are really created from a personal urgence of the maker. And I see that more and more happening. And I realize that often these are the performances that I'm very touched by. Can be a solo or a duo performance, but about a really personal subject. And over the past years, we have had shows about dealing with physical different ability or a disease, and dealing with we had a show about transition of a transgender artist, and all these very personal works. I find that a really interesting development right now in the circus, because I don't think we had those works that much like 10 years ago. I think it's really something that is starting to come out now, and it creates very strong works because there is already the urgency from the artist, the personal urgency, which gives it a different it gives it something special. So I'm very interested in those works at the moment. But in the same time, I can also get very excited about a beautiful group piece of acrobats, which has a lot of spectacle and is wonderfully put together or choreographed, and with the music. And and I also love a great clown performance. Like I love clowns and comedy, and when it's really, really, really high level. I think this is something that really is Circusstad is known for, is that it's really high level what we present, and on all of those different aspects of circus.
Yeah. Oh, I love me a good clown act. It's been a while since I've seen some circus just off the street. There's not much going on around here. You did you came over here in you did a festival in Zhuhai, which is across the border from where I am. What was that festival?
Yes. Yeah, that was a circus festival, like so many, where we have competed in the sense, because it was a competition with our Juggling Tango act. So it was right before the pandemic. It was like in November of 2019. I think there was already some talk about COVID at the time. Yeah, it was in this big circus building they have there. They have like a whole area that is circus, and there's a big circus building. And they had many, many great acts from all over the world, there was, I think, already 3 or 4 acts that had already won the Gold Award in Monte Carlo. So it was an insanely high level of acts. And we were quite happy to be part of that lineup already. But I also remember telling Emilie before we would go there, because I was like, I don't think this is the one where we're going to get an award, because I mean, this is, it's going to be. And then we didn't get one of the gold, silver, bronze awards, but we got the award of the Nicolin Circus in Moscow, which was great as well. And it's always a great opportunity to be part of these big gatherings of circus artists.
Amazing. So tell me, we always ask, we've got a few more questions because I want to direct people to Circusstad Festival. But before we do that, we always finish our podcast with 2 questions. So I want you to tell me, what is your most favorite thing about your job or the industry?
And okay, about the job or the industry, favorite thing. Yeah, I mean, the favorite thing, it's a very hard question because I'm so passionate about circus that it's very hard to define why I'm passionate about it. But
it's your life.
Yeah. Now, what I love about this job that I'm at Circusstad Festival doing right now, the artistic direction part, and to put the festival together, the thing I love the most is, I'm seeing all these shows, and I'm traveling to all these festivals, and often when I'm at a festival, there's maybe one show that really like sparks my interest, where I think, okay, this is something I would like to bring next year. And so everywhere I go, if I'm lucky, I have this moment, and then at home, I start to puzzle it all together, and I start to get in touch with the companies and see if they're available, and then you see the program suddenly taking shape, and it starts to. Yeah, I don't know. I cannot explain it. It makes like a connection in my mind, and different ideas are starting to pop up about even sometimes similarities between performances that we can do a specific side program on, or anyway, the whole thing starts to come together, and then the moment comes that everything is here in Rotterdam. Everybody's here, and then it comes alive, and then I can finally share with the audience the thing that I've been for 1 year already, or sometimes even longer,
planning
in my mind. and see it all come together and see the reaction of the audience. This is a very, very gratifying moment. I think it's my favorite moment.
It must be so rewarding. And what a gift to be able to curate all of those things. It sounds like a fun job to me, I tell you.
It's fun. It's a responsibility too. I mean, I realize also that it's a responsibility because I get to decide what people are going to see here or not, so it's a responsibility. So that's why I try to be very open minded and don't restrict myself into a certain way. I'm also quite aware of not doing the same thing every year again and again. Of course, we have the same locations so sometimes shows have to fit in those locations, but I'm also always on the lookout of bringing something new that we have not had yet. Like next year, we're going to have, for example, for the first time, we're going to have a company that comes with their own tent, because we're a very urban festival. We're in the middle of town. Our main square is 5 minutes walk from Central Station, and the theaters that we play are walking distance from the square. But the square is built on a parking garage, so we have some tents there, but they're all freestanding structures. So like a real big circus tent where you have to put stakes in the floor, this is not possible on that square. So therefore, very seldom we get these companies that bring their own tent and wagons and caravans. This is difficult in our situation. But now we have one that has a tent that can fit on the square, and that is so we have for the first time a company like that. Yeah, so always something new.
Yeah, and in and of itself, you are contributing to the evolution of circus by choosing what plays at this festival, right? That is itself an important role. That's why it comes with some responsibility.
Yeah. And also by giving the chance to the young makers to develop the projects, because there we also have an open call, and then we select projects, not just me, but with a committee together. And we stimulate them and we help them to develop their work. So we have a direct influence on which works get developed in a sense. Yeah.
And if you could change one thing about the industry or your job, what would that be?
I should have listened to the podcast so I knew these questions on forehand.
It's better if it comes authentically, right? Because it's your first reaction is the right one, I say.
Something I would want to change. I mean, it's not something I would want to change so much about the industry itself, but I would love it to be even more recognized, because of course it is recognized in the Netherlands. We can get funding for new circus productions and for our festival and everything. But sometimes I would love it to be taken a more seriously, because I still feel that the circus arts are not on the same level in the mind of people as the arts like dance and music and for someone who circus is so important for us, for me, it's sometimes hard to grasp why that is, because I think it's and so many people enjoy it and so many people go to these performances, and like we have so much audience and it's every year increasing, but still there are very few people who actually know a lot about it or dive into it, and I would love it to be a bit more known and maybe even respected even more than it is, and by a bigger number of people.
I like that answer. And it's funny that it's like that, because it is such an accessible art form too, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like it's for everybody. Yeah. There's no exclusiveness about circus. You rock up and you see it, it's that.
But there's something a little bit mystical about it for people. And it has always been like that. I think that people, they loved going there, but they could never really grasp like what goes on behind the scenes, or what does it take to be a circus performer. And it is, of course, it's just hard work, and everything is work. It's creating the magic, let's say. It is hard work, and it is a skill as well, and it is artistic, and it takes a lot. So, but people don't really, a lot of people don't really know, and they don't seem to search much further either. They just take it as a given. And they think it's one big family that lives together and travels everywhere, and these romantic
the gypsies move around. Yeah,
exactly. But they don't give it so much thought. And then sometimes when I talk to them and I explain a bit how it works for us, then they go, "Oh, yeah, okay." But it's not a very well-known art form in that sense.
Yeah. So tell us, when is the next Circusstad Festival? What dates, and how do we find out about that if anybody does want to go?
Yes. So the next festival, it's always the first week of May. So we're going to be from the 30th of April to the 4th of May, 2025, which is still a little far away, but
a ways away. But
yes. And of course, we have our website, circusstad.nl, and we have our Instagram and our Facebook accounts where you can follow us and get information about the festival. So I would encourage people that would like to do that. And for professionals, it's interesting that every year we have a professionals program. Like I said previously, part of it is the Dutch Circus Showcase. So it's a very interesting festival as a professional to join, because we go see the shows, but there's also a pitching session from artists from the Netherlands and companies that pitch their newest shows and projects. And we'll also take you on a tour of Rotterdam, the circus city of Rotterdam, and see the different facilities that we have here for circus artists. So it's very interesting to visit and to see the newest things, both national and international, that circus has to offer.
Amazing. Well, Menno, what a pleasure to talk to you tonight and get to know you and the festival. Thank you so much for spending some time on the StageLync podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thank you for listening to the StageLync podcast. StageLync is an online platform that gives you access and connection to the live performing arts. As a guest, you can read about live performing arts from across the globe and gain insights from performers and artists on stage and all the amazing people who work behind the curtain. If you are an industry professional, StageLync Pro offers jobs, networks, and career support tools, and you can build your own professional profile on the site. As a StageLync podcast listener, you are eligible for 20% off your StageLync Pro membership. Visit us at stagelync.com, and when joining, use the code SLPodcast. StageLync, that's Stagelync.com.